Picture an archaeologist in the year 4025, easing open the sealed door of a suburban tomb. Inside, a cathedral of screams. A chrome tower hums in a sleep mode. Rainbow LED light strips trace the geometry of a room the way stalactites trace caves. On a shelf sit assorted reliquaries, an Iron Man helmet over there.
I am Iron Man.
A replica of the USS Enterprise over here.
Hidden.
Objects that, to our future explorer, read like sacred vessels from a vanished civilization. She dusts fingerprints from the visor. She tilts her head and asks the question every good archaeologist, every good journalist, every good friend eventually asks. What kind of person builds such a sanctuary to make believe? Hard cut, back to the present, and remove the word tomb, because this is an office. It's Rob Kubasko's office. Rob is the chief creative officer at GradGuard, a lifelong designer who once poured his skills into the McCain campaign and who has never met a glowing LED he didn't consider a design decision. And the office, with its helmets and ships and toys and light, is as much a collection as it is a theory. It argues that play isn't the opposite of work. Play is R&D for being human. If you've ever watched kids invent a universe out of cardboard, you know the rules of the R&D lab. Curiosity outranks pride, iteration beats certainty, and you can reboot the story mid-scene without filing a memo. Rob's workspace suggests he never stopped running that lab. He just upgraded the equipment. The helmet becomes a question about identity. What version of myself do I put on when I sit down to make something? The starship becomes a question about mission. Where am I actually trying to go? The lights become a question about, well, mood. But here's the second layer. This is the one that runs through Rob's political chapter. Campaigns are the opposite of permanent. They're sand mandalas built on asphalt, intricate, collaborative, and designed to be swept away on a specific Wednesday in November. You labor like it will last forever, and you measure success by what the next morning erases. Yet for a season, you give everything. Your craft, your sleep, your belief that the story you're telling can shift the arc of other people's lives by a few degrees. Politics, at its best, is the collective version of play, a community prototyping a future. Which leads to the third thread, time. Most of Rob's work, design assets, brand moments, campaign artifacts, they expire. Not because they're disposable, but because they are timely. Timely things are made to change us right now. They're not meant to be stored. They're meant to be metabolized. The archaeologist in 4025 may not boot his operating system, but she will understand something about him from the way he arranged his reliquaries. She'll see a person who believed that what we do for a moment can matter as much as what we do for a monument. The shelf life is short. What the shelf says is profound. I'm Pete Wright, and this is Headstone. Rob Kubasko, welcome.
My goodness, Pete Wright. That was absolutely... I am just internally grateful for how eloquent that was.
Oh, Rob.
No, that's a gift, and you should be, and you're applauded for it. You know what? I mean, like that, I think, okay, and if anybody doesn't know, like my offices, all my offices, any place I've ever worked the reliquary for a lot of reasons that we won't get into is a perfect thing for this. But it really is it's not about the stuff, it's the stories. And it's the stories that have animated my life. And so, you just took my breath away. That was amazing.
That means a lot, Rob. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I hope what it says more than anything is I'm glad you're here. I think the world of you. You are one of the most generous and jovial people I know, and I just it hurts my heart that we don't live closer together. It's ridiculous. But I want to set the scene. When you go to work in the morning, you go to your office. Your office, like I pointed out two things. There are hundreds of things in your office. True. What's the first thing that your eye hits when you go into your office? What's the first thing you're drawn to, and why is it there?
Well, okay, wow. Okay, so there's always something new, right? We always are adding some new stuff. But there is a small table next to where my actual desk is, and that table has a variety of very personal items. The one I always think of is there's a picture of my wife and I, right? So, I mean, that's important. Okay. I have there's a little box that I bought on a trip one time. I mean, and the answer to your question is that's the place. Like whenever I sit at my desk, that's the place. I look at this. So there's a whole bunch of things there. This little box I was about to say that I bought on a trip that was made in Poland, part of my ancestry. It holds a pair of rosary beads that are very special to me from my grandparents. All of those things. There's things there that are incredibly meaningful, and they are the things that I purposely probably tuck them aside a little bit, because although you'll see all the other stuff, and there's a story behind all of it, that's the stuff that I reach to when I run out of gas. Like when I'm like, yo, what am I doing here? That's where I go.
The stuff that's for you, not for sort of the performative version of you.
And it's still there. Oh, and that's true. Oh, and by the way, make no mistake, the office is more of a, when you say performance, it is almost meant to discombobulate you when you walk in, right? Because I think
it does that.
No, I mean, and the lights and everything, and that's craziness, right?
Yeah.
But it's designed because I want people. I fear that too many people go through work, and they're not mesmerized by the work they get to do, and I want them to come into my office and go, "Wow!" Right? Like, because that's how I feel about work, even the mundane stuff.
Yeah.
So
then let's go back in time, because I think what you capture with the space that you have curated for doing the work is it's almost a manifesto to the fact that play is a method and not a break, right? And I'd like to go back to young Rob. Were you Robbie? Did anybody ever call you young Robbie?
I was Robert. I was Robert until about 5th grade, and then I settled on Rob. Yeah,
really?
My dad was Bob.
Okay,
I'm a junior.
I was Peter until college, and then I went to Pete. That's fine. You grow up, and in fact, we both go for our nicknames. So let's go back to Robert. What kind of a kid was he? When did he discover this kind of play?
So I will tell you, growing up from a loving home that my parents encouraged, didn't have a lot of means, but always encouraged creativity, encouraged exploring things. Also, and I will say I'm like us, we are products of our age. I was 5 years old when Star Wars came out. And I still remember to this day going to see Star Wars at the age of 5 with my dad. You just had this incredible moment where storytelling was taking flight. And so for me, when I was Robert, it was all based on that. And then as me as a kid, and I can't disconnect these two things, I have always struggled with my weight. So I was a fat kid, and that's not meant to, be insulting to that, right? This is who I am as an adult, and it took me a long time to figure that out. For me as a kid, as that little Robert kid, you get teased. Kids are not, kids are kids, like adults are as well sometimes. Mm-hmm. And the humor was always a defense mechanism. So like I always, the humor sprouted from, oh, if I can make you laugh with me, you won't laugh at me. And as much as it took a long time to figure that out, it was like, wow, now I'm like so grateful for it, which is kind of cool when the dots connect. Like, because now it's like, oh, I'm just, every day's joyful, even the bad stuff. Because it's not every day is full of joy. Every day is full of other things. Anyway, I digress.
I don't think it's a digression at all. And I think it's actually interesting because what you're defining are sort of a set of rules learned early around how to play, but how to negotiate, right? How to get things done. I'll say quite specifically, I had a bully. His name was Joe. My most embarrassing moment was he picked on me and challenged me to a fight on the playground on track day. And so all the kids were around. It was like a scene from, I don't know, Grease or something. And my big move was I slapped him in the face. I didn't know how to punch, and I slapped him in the face. And then I freaked out, and I ran and hid behind the maintenance shed for like 3 hours, to the point that they thought I'd been kidnapped. It was not a great moment for young Peter. Joe, as far as I know, is fine, and I'm sure does not think about me as much as I think about him. Here we are 45 years later, and I'm telling you this story. Do you have a sense of the either the individual or the archetype that taught you the rules that you live by?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what. I will tie this to a story that actually involves everything you just said, everything that's on my little table to the side of me. I grew up in a very religious family. We're still religious, and I don't want to make that sound weird or anything, or disenfranchising anybody. But it was filled with faith. It's northeastern Pennsylvania, typical Catholic, Irish, Italian, Polish Catholic area. So always kind of had a feeling that even though my being was all based on, well, this is not great when people make fun of me, but I can make it through. I was always able to lean in to be able to see things and say, I know how I can fix this, or I know I can do this. So from a very early age, from kindergarten, I was kind of a teacher's pet. This is going to go a place, and you'll see.
Okay.
Because I had a bully. So basically, that goes through kindergarten, first grade. I get to second grade. Second grade, I had a bully. His name was John, and relentlessly would make fun of me in ways that I even remember my mom talking to him, because it was so just infuriating and crazy and everything else. And he and his sister die in a house fire the winter of my second grade year. And traumatic, from a very small town, totally traumatizing for the entire community. I will never forget going to the wake. And I grew up, death was not a big thing, not just because of the faith, the church we were in. It wasn't a big deal because I had a lot of old relatives that were dying, right? So as a kid, you'd go to these wakes and stuff. And I will never forget going to the wake, line out the door. You go into this room. The two caskets are side by side on both ends of the room, so you'd make a U-turn. And his sister had a Raggedy Ann doll in the casket with her. And when I went to his casket, as the line snuck around, he had one of those little die-cast land speeders in his casket, which you remember, right? Because we had the toys. I had the Star Destroyer. He had the land speeder.
Yeah.
And I have the same toy. I went ahead and bought it. One day I was at an old antique toy store and I saw one, and I have it, and it's on my shelf.
This is Luke's,
there's little
Rusk
Luke,
one,
and I think it's Obi-Wan. Yeah, episode 4. Yes.
Yeah.
And I will never forget, at the age of 7, standing there and going and looking at the body of the person who has been the bane of my existence, and saying, he likes Star Wars. I like Star Wars. Could we not have found a thing to connect on where, instead of him making fun of me for reasons, because I found out later, because of his family and life, and he was a tortured soul, could we not have connected? And I will tell you that part of my story of my energy, my joy, even the fascination with storytelling and the emblems of those things, a lot of it is because I'm always looking for a way to connect to people. And so if you find a lot of interest, if you find a lot of beauty in the curious things we all like to spend our time on, then you have a way to connect to somebody. So when we go back to the office, I always love when I can have anybody in our office that I work with, or even visitors, come in, and somebody will always find something in that room that excites them. And that's why it's there. Because then there's a conversation that can be had, and then you can build. That's how you build relationships. You build relationships on whatever that connection is. So somehow that has won out over the years with me, regardless of the adversity or other things.
And I mean, I'm still a little bit shook by the fact that you're having this awareness as a 7-year-old, staring at what I have to imagine is your first dead body.
Well, it wasn't. Well,
it was the first. You get a
It was the first dead body of someone my age. That's for sure. So that's
Okay,
different, and that
fair.
is different. But then if you're again, your mileage is going to vary. If you lean on to the faith then aspect of it, you can somehow make that sense. But 7 years old, what are you making sense of that?
You're making sense of nothing.
No.
You're not made of sense.
You're just like, okay.
You're made of land speeders.
Exactly.
Do you remember when how you were able to internalize that as you got older? I imagine that's not something that sort of left you through high school. Like, there's it. To me, it feels like you've just described your Stand By Me moment, right? That the body in the woods, and you're telling that story now, 40 plus years later. How long did it take you to make sense of that story the way you're able to make sense of it for me?
Oh, like 35 of those years.
Yeah.
Only within the last 10 years have I really put it all together. Because look, at that point, at that age, your adolescence, you're just trying to survive, right? Especially if you have something, about yourself that is an easy target for people, right? And those come in all different shapes and sizes. You got to manage that. And then you got to manage the whole, well, who am I going to be? Well, I'm going to be funny. I'm going to be smart. And fortunately, both those things come easy to me, right? Through DNA or the universe or all the above. And so you're going to build on that. And I think one of the big things that I have been lucky with is, I love seeing problems and solving them, right? So and I have just been incredibly lucky to just be in a series of unending situations where I can do that.
I want to talk, we talk about your office. I want to talk more about play for accomplishing goals, because you, like me, ran a freelance shop for many, many years, right? I don't know why you decided to go to work for somebody. I don't know how you could do it. I look at that and I think, well, I'll never make that decision. We're of similar age. I would be a disastrous employee for somebody else after so many years of running my own show. Disastrous, Rob. Somehow you have been inoculated to that because of, again, DNA, the universe, the rules. So let's start with making that decision to be the guy who runs his own show. Like, how does that emerge for you 20 plus 30 years ago?
I know nothing about running a business. So we'll go back to college. I went into college and I was a communications major. And because I knew how to talk, I knew how to make things pretty. Mm-hmm. I was a hack designer and I was like, okay, I can do this. What I really should have done is I should have been a business major because I know nothing of running a business. So I fell into it. We had an opportunity come by. I was doing design work, working in the early days of the internet, fell into a thing of my fascination with politics. Everything merged. And we ended up doing a presidential website in 1995. You heard that right, 1995, we're working on one of the first presidential campaigns on the internet. And then that's it. It was one of those weird mystical moments where we're the only ones who can do this service. We do the interview. They're like, you're hired. And then we're creating an S corporation. Not knowing what we're doing and getting a check of a sizable amount, right? And you're just doing it. So you're just doing it. You're winging it. That's what happened.
Yeah, there's the experience of a guy who's just exceptionally good at the pitch meeting and not very much else surrounding it.
And then and believe me, falling into that, the other thing that I think has been a part of this is you can be good at something, which is what everyone should strive to. Find the thing you're good at and really attack that. Learn how to figure it out. The one thing that I am not good at, and I have only really gotten to it in the later part of life, is just dealing with my ADHD or my anxiety and all the things that send you down, as I tell my wife, send you over the cliff, right? I feel like sometimes I'm running along a cliff and I'm just a little finger comes and kicks me off and you go down that abyss.
It's a great analogy.
And we all deal with this. And by the way, one of the most amazing things of the last 5 to 10 years is scrolling on Facebook or Instagram and getting all of these ads for the thing that I have been struggling with my whole life. And you're constantly reminded, oh, you're not alone. Oh, yeah, there's tons of people who deal with this. We all deal with that. So in terms of the business stuff, I mean, you got thrown into it because you're like, well, this is an opportunity. Take it. Do you know what to do? We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
From the moment I first entered your office, I had this sense that your your masks are representative of a variety of identities that you carry around. I wonder if you have an intentional sort of categorization. Do you know who you are when you're sitting down and doing some serious design work? Are you an appreciably different guy when you are crafting something political, when you're working on a campaign, when you're designing a click through download such and so? Do you know what those masks do to you?
Oh, now, just so everyone knows, I left politics back in 2010. So it's been a while, thankfully. When I was in politics, the mask was a devil's mask. Because, I mean, you have to go to dark places to do some of the work that's required there.
Yeah. And
hopefully you're trying to do the best you can. You're trying to not do anything that endangers you or anybody else, but that's tough. I think today it's more, though, is whether it's the mask of my day job, or I have a weekend job with my faith community, or any of these other things that you do. I am finding as I get older, there's just one mask. It's who I am. I bring the same energy, the same humor, the same tenacity. I do find, though, that in business, I think after all these years of doing stuff, now I find that when you're in that serious business situation, I get very pragmatic. Like, very no nonsense. This is what we're doing. This is how we should do it. Make the choice. Get on to the next thing. Which in the past, I probably, I don't know. I don't know what Rob from 15 years ago would do. I'm not sure. But today I'm much more. Today I think I'm much more of the same person in those areas. Even though one of the items on the tiny shelf next to my desk is a Phantom of the Opera music box that plays the song Masquerade, which maybe you knew that or didn't, but
maybe there's substance behind.
I mean, you're
that.
right.
Maybe, yeah. So you got out of politics in 2010, yes. But you put a lot of yourself into the campaigns, and I'm. This is honestly, this is the thing I think about when I puzzle through my headcanon of Rob Kubasko. Is how does he rationalize his history, his passion for the things he believes in, with what has happened in the last 15 years? I could say more specifically the last 12.
You could.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because
I know 100% of what you're saying.
I imagine this is a big challenge for you, especially because of what you put into it.
Yeah. Okay. So two things. So one, I've always been. Let's deal with the first part. When I was working in politics, and I was working in national politics for 15 years at the time. I saw everything as I have a job. I have a job to do, right? And I'm a fairly moderate, independent person, right? So one, I know that brings value to a situation because I'm bringing a perspective that is not one side or the other. It's somewhere in the middle. That's what I try to do. And I also take my job seriously. If I'm going to offer my services as a designer or as a strategist or as a message maker or an internet developer, that's my job, right? So I've agreed to do it. I'm going to do it to the fullest extent to what I can do, which accounts for the sleepless nights, the working 18 hours. Basically, I was flying back and forth to the West Coast to the East Coast several times a month during the heyday of what I was doing, and it's sacrifice to my family and a whole bunch of other things. You do that because I genuinely love the nuts and the bolts. I genuinely love the craftsmanship, the creativity. That's the stuff I want to do. What led me out of it was that I really just had a bunch of experiences that were like, oh, this is a facade. This is probably going to go a way that's going to be very sideways. Like I think you always felt that what we're doing is theater, but it's still a show. And at the end of the day, it's your local governments and your local groups that are actually taking care of making sure that people don't fall through the cracks and all that. At some point towards the end there, 2009, I would say for sure, you really realized that was not going to be the case. and that this was headed to a place that was going to be not only divisive, but the rhetoric would become so damaging that this is sometimes the way I like to explain it today is politics has become it's still theater, and there's a script, but some people don't know there's a script, and they're taking it all as real, and they're all in, and you see this now clearly in some of the ways in which we have started to slide. That's when I was like, oh, I got to get out. And I will never forget, like, I think there was a really bad day one day. This was like probably in November. And I want to say this was November of 2009, where I had just an enormously bad moment, was frustrated with so many different things. And I walk down the street in Alexandria, I get on the metro, I go right to the Capitol, and I sat on one of the benches that were right outside the Capitol. And even back then, I think I had a book on my phone. That was like the first time the books were available on like your phone now. And the book I was reading was Sully Sullenberger's Highest Honor. And you'd say to yourself, okay, right? Well, and I'm not joking. I went right to a page and I started reading. And the page I went to was where he said, you know, I did all this stuff as a pilot, but I missed out on my kids and my wife. And that's the one regret I have, is that I was doing the stuff I loved, but at some point, what am I doing to them? And literally I made the choice. I'm like, I'm out. Like, it took another like 4 months to fully get out, but I was just like, oh, that's it. Yeah, this has been fun. This is great. Take nothing back. Love the people I worked with. I'm still figuring out the things I did, but I got to get home and just figure it out.
It's interesting to me to hear you to sort of talk about the experience as you do, because, you know, there are kind of two broad categories of things that drive people into politics. There's I'm an ideologue. I have an idea and I want to manifest that idea on others. So I'll start into politics and figure out the practical stuff. And there's I have the mentality of a civil servant, and I want to do my part, and I happen to be sort of aligned this way, but mostly I have a skill that other people don't have, and I'm going to leverage that and end up in politics. And it seems like you're the second, if that's a fair characterization. And yet you spent a lot of time in there, in the day-to-day sort of buckle shuffle of the work. And when you say, I'm still trying to come to terms with some of the things I did, what does that mean, right? Because there's the line between persuasion and manipulation and political communication and writing the script, right? You're in the seat that's doing that.
As soon as those words left my mouth, I was like, oh, wow, what door did I just open? Well, here's the deal. I didn't write, like, I'm not a copywriter. Like, even though I could do messaging, I didn't do that. But I made what I was given work, or be compelling, mm-hmm. or visceral, or all the words you can come up with. So I don't think what I worked on was damaging to the fabric of society. But I also don't think it helped repair anything. And that's a problem.
Okay.
Because to me, certainly at this stage of my life, being on the sidelines, just not contributing, is not right. That's not enough. You have to contribute to the welfare of the society, or else what are you doing here? So I think that's the number one thing, is when I talk about that kind of stuff. There's probably a couple direct mail pieces I did in like 2007 that I'm very not proud of. But we move past from that. The nice thing was that I was very lucky, and I've always been lucky at this, to work with just extraordinary other individuals that we actually share the same values and beliefs. We just happen to be in a space that we're working for certain individuals, right? Because you don't get to work for whoever you want in politics in general. So I think I don't want to make that sound like as if I'm being complacent about that, or that's how I figure it out at the end of the day. But you just didn't want to. I think there was one time I can remember, we were at a retreat somewhere. I think it was Atlantic City, with a whole bunch of group of people that I worked with. And I said, what I find frustrating in politics is that this is no longer about the contest of ideas. It's simply a contest of tactical advantage. And once you get to that, well, now you've lost me, because although I respect tactical advantage, and I respect how all of the things that we now do works. And my God, look at today, and it's a totally different thing. But it's got to be ideas, and the ideas can't be just that the other person is trash or that the other side is trash. It's got to be about how are you going to make the world better, and how are you going to be able to bring people who are so divided and so, you've probably maybe heard me say this in previous discussions. One of the problems that the internet has made in politics is that it has allowed all the village idiots to connect, and now we have villages of idiots. Mm-hmm. I'm a member of maybe one or two of those villages too. Maybe we all are in different ways, and not just about politics, just in life. We've just have lost the ability. I'll borrow this from Ted Lasso, to be so judgmental versus curious. We need to be more curious again, and that goes for everybody. So,
do you ever find yourself, sitting back and thinking, did I do the right thing leaving when I did? Could I have contributed in a way that might have softened a message, that might have rebuilt something rather than torn it apart?
Never. And I will tell you, and I could have answered very quickly. I didn't want to interrupt you. Never. And I'll tell you 2 reasons why. Money and more money. The reality is that, and I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by this, is I'm not divulging any state secrets here. There is an insane amount of money in politics, more so today than there was 15 years ago. And the reality is the level of money that is there, it corrupts both your mind and your heart. And you'll get to a point where you could say that. You can go in with the best intentions. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I mean, wow. I know that's quite the mic drop. Like, yeah. No. I know there's good people out there doing a lot of good things, and I see them even today, and I follow them and love it, and I'll support them. But yeah, I don't think I'm not sure there was any good hearts that were going to keep from happening what has happened. I'm not sure.
Not good enough, not big enough.
And also not that I ever want to, we should always be fighting for everyone, right? But this may be necessary. This time may be necessary to wake up and for us to endure some things so that we come out better on the other side.
Sounds like you subscribe to the pendulum swing metaphor.
I certainly believe that. I absolutely believe that. Yes.
Whose life got better as a result of the work you did in politics, right? When you look at sort of the overall team, the way you're talking about it seems honestly tinted fairly negatively, and I'm curious if by the end there was anybody you felt actually won.
Oh, that is a very interesting question, and I would, other than the people I worked with, I am not sure. Other than the people, like, if one, you're the people you work with, two, the people who subscribe to whatever the team was that you're working on, right? Sure. Obviously, you're helping them out. I don't know if that. I'm not sure there's a good answer to that. Ooh, I mean, and that's an answer. That's
telling.
An answer.
That's telling.
An answer.
Yeah.
So, none.
All right, let's bring it up, because so far, Rob, I got to tell you, you're a bit of a downer.
But wait. I do want to end on that note in terms of politics in general. Like, here's the deal. At the end of the day, if you want to make your community, your city, your state, your nation better, it begins on how you treat your neighbor. It begins on how you treat the people in your community. If you want to get involved, you have your school board, you have your city council, you have your state legislature. That is where the actual things happen. Once you get above that, it just gets more and more theatrical. And I don't mean that entirely. I'm sure there's total arguments against that. I understand that. But please do not deter yourself from being involved in your community. If your kids are in school, be on the PTA or the PTO. Get involved. Go to a city council meeting. Just understand those things, because at the end of the day, that's the fundamental blocks of civilization, and you want to be a part of those and feel good about them.
That's what's going to get your streets paved. That's what's going to get
your garbage. All that stuff.
Yes. Yeah, right. I think about that often, and did my own time in the party infrastructure here for some time, and I realized, you know what happens at the very, very local level, the how much is determined by the higher level and by the way we can take the argument to say we need money to do this, by how well our representatives make those arguments. The what is not really determined by people making those arguments. It's just the how much. So the headstone-y part of this conversation is, I think, something that I wrestle with too, right? Because you and I both create things that, I mean, we're not writing a lot of great American novels, you and me, right? We're not chiseling, hieroglyphics. Where the things that we do are temporary, maybe more temporary than ever, because they're largely on the internet. And that doesn't mean legacy historically. That means temporary. That means hard drives that are going to burn out in 7 years and maybe lose stuff forever. And I would like to know from you how you think about the stuff that you do, your contributions that are intentionally short-lived. How do you make peace building cathedrals out of dry erase?
Oh my God. Cathedrals out of dry erase is like, oh, we got to use that. That's going to be on a shirt. That's amazing. Okay, so here's how you do it. At early point in life, I had grand illusions that, I would love to be the candidate. I would love to be a celebrity. I would love to be all this. And I think everyone probably goes through this, especially for our generation, right? Like you see all that. And at some point, you absolutely, whether it's through your own experiences with people or whatever groups you happen to be a part of, you realize that the real things are in the moments one-on-one with people. And it is so difficult after we have been through the pandemic, after we have been through the rise of the internet and all of these things. But it still comes down to, you have to have that day-to-day connection with people. And going back to one of the things you said is, how do you leave working from home behind and go to an office? That's actually one of the reasons, right? Like, the number one reason is I have an amazing boss. If he listens to this, he'll know that has just provided the resource and the environment to thrive. But it's also, I love the interaction, and sometimes I complain about it. People coming into my office and talking, and you know what? Actually, it's one of the greatest things about it. It's part of the job. So, how have I dealt with then the limited life of anything I do? It's just in that moment. So just like in those moments of conversation, if this is the task, if these are the 6 things I got to do today, I'm going to make the best of those 6 things. And maybe they'll only live for a little bit, right? Or a moment or so, but I'm going to try to be the best I can be. I'm just going to try and give this because I do know, and this is not ego fully talking, I do know that I bring a kind of a fun, whimsical perspective that a lot of people don't have. So that's going to leave my mark on it, and then it's going to go off and do the next thing. And that's enough, because man, it's just so much fun. Like I have so much fun, and I love seeing the joy that extends to other people. And once you've had that moment, then you're just like, that's enough. Wow. I mean, it's that simple. I hate to that's it.
Have you ever created anything that has legitimately surprised you at its endurance, at its longevity?
Oh. Well, like in longevity in terms of its like stuff that I would look at today and say, oh, that's still a thing?
Say maybe it's living on as an artifact that is still sort of contemporaneously appreciated. Maybe it's just living on in culture, in a habit, like a team habit, in you, in your family. I'll even add in your child.
Wow. Okay, the first thing I thought of when you said that was back in this is back in the mid-90s, I was doing the design work for the ASU, Arizona State University, where I was working and where I was going to school. And we were doing the work for this. And when it came time, and this is early, this is like 96, 97, way early. I'm doing all the graphics for the website, and I went ahead and took the ASU logo, and I put some snow caps on the logo. And here I'm just being silly because I knew how to do it in Photoshop. I'm like, oh, look what we can do. And then it was the joke that there's snow in Arizona, right? So at least not in Phoenix. Yeah. There is a magazine article like a few years later than that said, oh, you know, there's this tradition that people decorate their websites like with Christmas lights and stuff. And it cited Arizona State University did it. And that's like one of the first things we saw people do it. And I went, are you shitting me? Are you serious? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, and there was other people who did this stuff. But I've had that experience. Like, there was I don't know how much I can talk about this. There was a thing that I and my co-partner in our company invented for the campaign, the presidential campaign we worked on. And years later, I got to defend a company you would know today in a patent dispute because when they went back through everything, they said, oh yeah, you know that thing that they're claiming to have the patent on? You guys invented it.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay. And once again, this full circle conversation. If I had been a business major, I would have learned the beauty of patents.
Note to self.
Did not happen, but okay, whatever. So no, I mean, like I mean, in a weird way, I've had that moment where some things I've done, like somehow, and actually, there's a part of me that loves that. There's no credit for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's a fun thing. It's a fun humble brag to bring up in a conversation from time to time. But like, oh, this is part of the contribution to the universe. Like, yeah, we all do this stuff. And by the way, I mean, that doesn't mean that the little ripples of things that we all create doesn't have a ripple effect, as I just said. Like, I mean, it actually does. You don't know that. That's why you should always be trying to help. That's why you should always be trying to do your best.
I've got an auspicious example. As you're talking, I haven't thought about this in years, but it may be my greatest uncredited legacy. I was living in South Korea with my dear friend Chad Stoops, and we were teaching there right out of college, and we're sitting on the floor of our little apartment, and he was a very funny, still is, a very funny individual, and I think we were probably drinking some soju, and we made a list of things that are really great about brown, the color brown. And this was a time we also made a cookbook called something about the joys of cooking with more butter. That's neither here nor there. The brown list, though, this was important because, you know, we're talking about the early 90s, and email was not a big thing, let alone viral email. Right. And we didn't know anything about viral email. But we made this list of things that are great about the color brown. And a lot of them were related to chocolate. And number one was sometimes brown does taste good. And that was it. And it's a dumb, sort of vaguely scatological joke. And we put it in a list of like the top 10 of our favorite things about brown, and we emailed it to like 15 people. Rob, cut to like 20 years later, I got an email of somebody who forwarded me my list of great things about brown, totally uncredited. It's been out there, just floating around, ending in sometimes brown does taste good. Yours truly.
Okay.
Dumb joke, but legacy email.
And you would hope, and here's the thing. That's kind of like you say, oh, well, I wish I would have had some attribution to that or something. But you also realize that's not how the universe is, right?
It's not how the universe works. And it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's just funny. It's funny that somebody laughed enough about it. It's a stupid thing. That's objectively amazing. Dumb. But somebody laughed enough at that dumb joke to forward it to somebody else who laughed enough to forward and eventually gets back to me. Maybe there are only 3 people in that chain. That's okay. No, it's out there.
That's great. That's awesome.
You know, we've danced around the family stuff, and I find as we are, you know, people of a certain age, mm-hmm. the doors have sort of unlocked to an entire new category of anxieties related to how I represent to my family as it continues to age. I am I'm interested in how that works for you. You've got your wife is fantastic. I mean, what a joyful being.
Very kind. Thank you.
Your child is, by all measures, thriving.
Thank
right?
you.
As a college graduate.
Graduate, yes.
Very, very exciting. Where do you fit in this transition from dad, husband, Rob, to new chapter, child is thriving, I don't have to worry so much about that. I don't have to pay for college anymore. I have to find, what mask is going to fit me in this next era?
That is, again, a very good segue. One, I think you start to realize, as I'm actually going to get ready to go visit just in a few weeks at the time of recording to see my parents. My dad will turn 80 in November. Love my parents immensely. It's great to have them both and to be able to have these conversations with them and see them as age continues to do things to us, right? And start to have that conversation. I also look around my home and I look and my office and I go, well, look at all this stuff. Where's this all going to go? And I have a really big. I'm not going to say that the stories, because the stories are always the number one thing, but the stuff you start to say, oh yeah, if somebody came into my office tomorrow and said, I love that thing, can I have it? I hope nobody really listens to this, but you know what my answer would be? Sure, take it. It's yours. Because it's not mine. It's not even you know what I mean? It's the story. That's what I celebrate and stuff. And yeah, there's more than enough stuff to move around and do whatever. So it's none of that stuff. You get to an age where it's not about the things. It's not about any of that. But then you also, if we're similar, you'll start to look around your house and go, wow, we got a lot of stuff to get rid of. So you start to go through that. And then when you visit family, your parents, and you go, I don't know what we're going to do here. We got to figure all that out. And that's the one part. The other thing is that you start to say, my wife and I say this all the time, we're very active in our church. I'm in the process of taking a very interesting step to a much more defined role in the church that will consume a lot of my time. And what it will do is it's if I had to summarize it, it's a surrender, right? It's a surrender of I've had such a great ride that, and I also try to give as much as I can, and I try to be present for people and to help. But now I can see where our lives will transition into a full just how can we serve you? What can we do? Right? Mm-hmm. What can we do to whatever it is? And for me, a lot of times, yes, it's to bring a smile or to make people laugh, because if there's anything I have learned in life is there are a whole lot of people out there who have not nearly had as much joy as I've had. And so I would like to do a little bit to help fix that, because it should be joyful. So, wow, I don't know, that I kind of went off the rails on that, but I mean, that's kind of where we're at. And even my daughter, you say, she's out looking for a job right now. If anybody has any ideas, please let us know. No,
the lines are open.
The lines are. Morgan's gonna love hearing that. No, it's that you're so joyful because you realize, wow, now she gets to do all that stuff, and the good and the bad, because there will be chaos and trials and all the things you'll have to do, and it's wonderful because there's just as long as you don't get stuck too much in the ditch or off the cliff, there's so much to experience. And there's so much to help and to do. And this is, when I think about our daughter gave us a very wonderful tribute at our college graduation. First day of kindergarten, I'll never forget this. This is when I was traveling back to the East Coast. We were walking her to school for the first day of school. And I said, I want her to say something. I want her to say something back to me or something, because I'm not going to be here every morning, because sometimes I'm going to be on the East Coast. And so as we were walking there, I said, here's what I want you to say, kid. Every day, look at me, look at your mom before you go to school, and say 3 things. Be good, do good, help others do the same. And if you can do those 3 things, that's good. And you got to do them in that order, because you got to try yourself, and then you got to do the thing, and then you got to help other people do it. Because don't let people languish when they're struggling. And then someone will do that for you when you need it. And on her graduation cap, she put those words at her college graduation, and it was really wonderful. So that's what our transition in our life is. Our life is okay, how can we help more?
When you look at Morgan, I feel like you almost already answered this question with the story from all the way back to kindergarten. But when you look at Morgan, how much of Morgan is Rob?
If my wife answered, she'd say 85%. Now, and they're gonna laugh when they hear this too, because yeah, okay. No, it's like 51%, because she has a lot of her mother, which is wonderful, and I'm so grateful because my God, but
if she was all you, it's like Rob metastasized.
It would be rough. It'd be rough. But no, it is so wonderful to see. We only had one kid. That's just the way it happened. And it's so wonderful to see that in your kids, because again, and it's not that I only see the good stuff. Oh, I see the bad stuff too.
As only you can.
And as specific, things that I'm like, oh my God, I see that. But here's the difference. The difference is she's working on it way sooner than I started working on it.
Right.
And that's what we're supposed to do. Right? Because it's nothing's going to be flawless. No one's going to be perfect. But wow, if you can start to work on it, well, then that's what matters.
I think that's our entree to the great big question. The years pass, and the seasons change, and our footsteps in the mud are filled, and eventually grass grows over it. And I would love to know what you imagine is etched on your own headstone.
When I think about this, and this is not the first time I thought about this, because we, coming from the family, even my wife's family, we go to the cemetery often, right? Because there's an anniversary. We go for anniversaries. We go all the time. There's a part of me that so wants it to be funny, because there are very few laughs when you walk through a cemetery, right? But I came back to this. I would truncate that little thing I said to my daughter that morning, and it would literally just be the words, be, do, help. And that's it.
Can't think of anything better. Rob Kubasko, thank you.
Oh, thank you
so much. I know you, when we started this conversation, before we pushed record, you said, I feel like I'm coming into this completely naked. I hope you find it was not quite that vulnerable, but I do recognize what a weird exercise it is, coming in knowing nothing, and I have nothing but the highest gratitude for you doing this.
You are very welcome, but really seriously, thank you. And I would say one of the great beauties of this show is this is a exercise everyone should do. Like, everyone should do this. And if it helps, and by the way, if you've stumbled onto this podcast and you're listening to it, if this has helped you in that part, that's what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yay.
That's what we're supposed to do. All right, that's Rob. I'll tell you, what strikes me most about my time with that guy isn't the helmets or the lights or the reliquaries lined up on his shelves. It's the way he treats those things as invitations. Each one is a door that is open to connection. A land speeder here, a rosary box there. These are little signals that say, this is what matters to me. What matters to you? And the more we talked, the clearer it became that this is a philosophy. This is a guy that once used humor as a shield, but turned it into a bridge. Politics as theater that taught him where real community actually lives. Fatherhood as a set of 3 verbs whispered on a walk to kindergarten. Be good, do good, help others do the same. It's easy to think that legacy lives in performance, in monuments and names carved into buildings. But Rob reminds me yet again that the most enduring legacies are built out of temporary things. A joke, a design, a conversation in a cluttered office. These things vanish quickly, but they leave you changed. So when Rob says the words he wants on his headstone are just 3, be, do, help, he's teaching me something, that what survives us isn't the monument, but the impression. Not the thing itself, but the story it lets someone else tell. tell. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time, right here, around the headstone.